All right, it's been 1 year since we bought our first Airbnb in the North Georgia mountains. So, in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about 4 things that if I could, I would go back and tell myself 1 year ago and tell my wife 1 year ago as we're getting ready to buy this thing. 4 very important lessons that we've learned, 4 lessons that I want you to know going into it, because if you're getting ready to buy your first Airbnb, your first short-term rental, there's some things you need to know. So I'm going to give you 4 lessons, and then I'm just going to kind of shoot from the hip for just a couple minutes to wrap this whole thing up in a pretty bow. Oh yeah, this is Steve, Malone home team here at EXP in the North Georgia area. All right, if you wouldn't mind, I don't ever ask this, but apparently according to some of my coaches I listen to, I guess the big question is, after we talk about those 4 things, would I try and stop myself? Here we go. Let's talk about it. So we're going to do these in chronological order. The first thing that we're going to talk about is you should spend more time researching the place that you want to go to. Okay, we talk about it on the channel all the time, airdna.co. They give you great information. You can get a lot of information off the Airbnb app and the Airbnb website themselves to figure out, kind of what's going on with the property, how often it's rented, what it's renting for, how much money it's making. But airdna.co will give you a real in-depth look at how much money these properties have made over the last couple of years. You may have to pay a little bit more to get the more in-depth. If you're about to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in buying a vacation property, it's not a bad investment to maybe spend $20 to $30 for 1 month of information. That would just be how I would approach it. And it helped us. We found a really good place. And the reason I say that is you can find a really, really nice place to buy in a place where people don't rent. We saw plenty of spots up in the mountains, up in far northeast Georgia, up near Hiawassee. Love that area. Beautiful area. Love Lake Chattooga up there. We go up there all the time because my wife has some family up there. So we're up there. Gorgeous. Okay. For whatever reason, doesn't rent that much on Airbnb and VRBO, percentage-wise and whatever. So, I mean, even if we had a really nice place, doesn't have a whole lot of spots. Where we ended up was between LJ and Jasper, a little sleepy town called Talking Rock. And being in that location, the cool thing about that is it's right near LJ, it's right near Jasper, it's right near Ball Ground, it's right near Blue Ridge. Pretty close to Amicalola Falls. It's close to Carter's Lake. There's a lot of hiking up there. There's a lot of wineries up there. There's festivals. There are so many things to do up there. Another thing, people want to get out of town, and that's what we get a lot on weekends. People want to get out of Atlanta. It's about an hour to hour and a half away from Atlanta, depending on traffic. It's a good way to get the heck out of the city. It's a great location for lots of different reasons. You could find a spot like near Helen, which is a spot in northeast Georgia, is very touristy or whatever. The problem with that is it's very touristy in Helen. If you're near Helen, the only thing people are going up there for is Helen. Okay? At least in my spot, they're going for all different kinds of stuff. For being in Talking Rock, for being in LJ, for being in all that stuff. So there's all different kinds of reasons. We found that out by looking at some of the information. So if you get a wild hair and you say to yourself, I'm going to buy an Airbnb and we're going to get this thing going, I just want you to do a lot of research. A lot of research as far as, is this going to make financial sense? Okay? Because, what you could do is if you have the cash and you're just buying it, and if you rent it out a little bit to make a little money, you keep it, whatever, do whatever you want to do. But for us, what we did was we borrowed some money against the house, home equity loan, to put down on the house. We needed every dollar we could to help fund this home going forward. Okay, so we needed it to be a home run. Okay, do your research. It could take a month and a half to 2 months. We took about a month and a half before we found it. Okay, it's going to take a while, and I've got all the bells and whistles and all the stuff to help us look. So for like the layperson who doesn't necessarily do that, it could take even longer. That's fine. I would rather you. If you need a really good win, I would rather you take your time than settle and get the wrong thing. So if I go back in time, talk to myself, I'd say, be sure you're taking enough time. Good news is we did, found the right spot, and we're good to go. But again, take your time, do it right. The number 2 thing we want to talk about is I want you to have your team in place, ready to go. We were very blessed in the house that we bought. It was fully furnished. We had cleaners. We had lawn people. We had a list of people that took care of the HVAC, took care of the hot tub, all of it. Basically, we looked at it as we were buying a business. We're not buying a house that we need to put money into to then buy furniture and then interview cleaners and this and that. The cleaners were dynamite. The lawn people were dynamite. All these people, they did great. These people were just selling the house because they wanted to take that part of their portfolio and spread it into other parts and start spreading that way. Because in 4 or 5 years, if we own this house for that long, that's what we're going to do. We're going to sell and then split the money and start building our empire that way and continuing to buy more homes. So you need your team. Move very quickly, okay? As soon as you buy your house, you're on the clock, okay? Something I've talked about in the past. We're very blessed in that the people that we had before us, we bought it fully furnished. We kept everybody in check. The people that we bought it from had people scheduled, going forward, and we had to swap schedules and blah, blah, blah. So the reality was, the way that it worked out is we closed on a Tuesday. Our first guest came in that night for 5 days. So we closed. I drove up there to be sure everything was taken care of, met with the alarm company, met with the internet company, whatever, and then the people came in at like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, same day. That was kind of cool. You've got to remember, if you're buying a spot and you are expecting for renters to help you pay the bills, you need to get those renters in there super duper fast. And to do that, you need to have cleaners ready, you need to have lawn people ready, whatever. Whether you're there live or whether that you're an hour and a half away, which is where we are, about an hour and a half from that rental, you could be somewhere down on the beach and would be 6 hours away. You need a team of people that know what the heck they're doing that can keep that thing up and running. Okay, it's very important. Okay, it's not one of those, the second you buy that house, crap's going to start happening to it. Okay, we've had all kinds of stuff happen to the house, and that's going to be the next thing we talk about. But we've had all kinds of stuff happen to the house. You've got to be ready for it. Okay, from a cleaning perspective, from a lawn perspective, from a fixing something perspective, have your team in place quickly, ready to roll. Okay, like I said, we were blessed in that we bought a business. Everything slid over. It was awesome. Worked out great. Okay. But if you're doing it yourself and you're buying your first one, just know that this is a business. You're buying the business. You're getting into that immediately. The clock starts ticking the second you sign. Okay. So get your team. Get ready. Get out there. Luckily for us, we did the first two pretty well. Like I said, we had our people in place. We did a lot of research. Did that great. If you're buying, I want you to work on those two things like big time. All right, now let's get into the two that I needed somebody to come behind me and say these. So number 3 in this list, don't sweat the small stuff. Crap's going to happen. We've had people steal some of our stuff. It wasn't much, thankfully. An Airbnb, thankfully, because it's an Airbnb. The Airbnb has an insurance policy for renters and for people who rent their houses out, so we're covered by that. And thankfully, it wasn't much they stole. But there were a couple heaters got taken, a couple pillows got taken, some stuff like that. Like I said, nothing earth shattering or whatever. It's not like somebody stole a couch and a TV or whatever, but we're covered. But crap like that's going to happen. I mean, they've called to say this house is completely a train wreck when they go in there to go clean. We've had that happen. We've had people call and say, we came up as a couple and my husband or boyfriend or whatever left in the middle of the night and I don't have any way to leave. We've had that happen. We had the big water leak that we've talked about where one of the water pipes broke. We were down for about 6-7 weeks. No renters. Thankfully, insurance took care of it. Everything was fine. Like I said, I just need to go over my shoulder and say, everything's going to work out. Just got to roll with the punches. So here we are. We're 1 year later. And crap happens. Okay? Water pipes. The fix didn't go as smoothly as we hoped because it took a little bit longer than we hoped. But it looks great now. There's always something going on up there. Okay? You get people who they call and they rent. Yeah, one person rent. Like that day, it was a Friday, they rented. They got up there, they walked in the door. She said that the husband just got out of surgery in Midtown and they wanted to run away for the weekend. So when he got up there, they were in the house for literally 30 minutes, and the the painkillers that he was on started to wear off, and he started kind of freaking out a little bit. And he was kind of a little, I don't know if belligerent's the word or not, but she said, "We need to leave. Sorry, dude." So he left. Whatever, it happens. We rolled the punches. In the beginning, it was hard because we bought a home. You know what I mean? It was like, it's our little home, and we got people in there, and are they hurting it or this or that? And you've got to make the shift in your mind that this is not a home. This is a house. Okay, this is an asset. This is your house that has stuff in it. Stuff can be replaced. House can be replaced. Plumbing gets fixed. It's gonna break. All that stuff. Okay, you got to detach as much emotion from it as possible. Okay, it's just a house. It's a cute little home. I love it. It's great, but it's just a house, and you've got to make that mental change in your brain. Okay. And that being said, if you do the first couple things we talked about right, if you have your team in place and you take your time looking at it and really being sure that the numbers are going to work, all this stuff's going to work out. And that's where we are right now. I'll be honest, the first year did not go the way that we wanted it to. We did not make the money that we thought we were going to. We did not make the money that, first of all, we didn't make the money we hoped we would. But that's way out there. We didn't make the money that we thought we would. There's a hope and then there's a thought. We didn't even get to that. We're now at the point where things are a little more steady and we're figuring things out. And we're talking about that in number 4, how to do that. But I say all of that to say, in 1 year, we've learned a lot. We've learned just how to detach the emotions. We've learned how to work with our team. We've all those things. Okay, even if we've lost a little money in the first year, which we have, from a net perspective. When you look at how much the house has gone up in value, though, I mean, it's blown it out of the water. It'll be fine. It all comes out. And you take into account how much money we got to write off due to depreciation during taxes. That helped it to basically, I'll call it even break even. We may have even done better, but it's hard to tell what taxes-wise we did because of the rental property, how much we did because of the real estate team that we have, all that stuff. So it's hard to tell. All I know is taxes-wise, we did great, and one of the reasons we did great was because of being able to write off so much stuff and write off the depreciation from the rental property. So if we had to do it all over again, we would do it. Now we're a year in, and we're a year smarter, year wiser. We're ready to rock and roll. So that's one of the things. I want you to imagine on your shoulder somebody coming and talking to you and saying, as long as you do 1 and 2 right, you really do your research, really find a spot that's going to rent, that's going to make the money that you need it to make, and you have a really good team in place, everything's going to work itself out. It might be bumpy. It's business, baby. I've been in real estate for 6 years. If it's not bumpy every day, something went wrong. Okay, if it's not bumpy, I'm not doing things right. Okay, so keep that in mind. That's number 3. It's all going to work out. The final thing, and this is the big one. This is the one where if I could go back and smack myself in the back of the head, I'd say, psh, this is what you need to do. You got to learn dynamic pricing. You got to learn how to run your prices to keep yourself competitive, to keep people in there. There's a lot of stuff I've learned. I watch Rob Built a lot, the YouTube channel Rob Built. He doesn't necessarily go over the dynamic pricing stuff as much as the guy, Sean Rockagich from the Airbnb Automated. Watch a lot of his stuff on pricing, okay? But watch both of those, okay? Watch my stuff because, I need you to support me. But watch those 2 channels. They're awesome. We watched a crap ton of those videos. And that needs to be part of your research too. So if I go back in number 1 and edit this part in, I would say, hey, watch lots of YouTube stuff. Airbnb Automated, Rob Built. There you go. All right, now, pricing. You do not want to set it and forget it. Things are going to change, okay? You want to, and my ideas have changed the more I've studied, okay? What you want, okay? And I'm talking Airbnb strictly because really for me, we don't rent on VRBO. We're on VRBO. For some reason, we don't rent on there. Nobody sees it, and nobody rents. I rent enough on Airbnb to float the boat, so I'm not worried about it. So what I would say is, on Airbnb, my philosophy is the further out you go, the more expensive it has to be. If you want to take something in December, you're going to pay for it, and you're going to pay for it good, okay? The reason why, you are seen by more people if you are seen by more people. What that means is, if somebody is looking for a week in November, and you come up, that kind of counts, bing, that you got a hit and people have seen you. And Airbnb runs an interest algorithm. The more you are seen, the more they think people have interest in you, and the more you get seen and pushed to the top. Okay, so let's say somebody takes one day in the middle of November, and then somebody comes behind them and says, I want to take the week in the middle of November. They won't see my place because that person took the one day. So somebody else is getting a hit and somebody else is getting raised and not me because I did that one day. Okay. To me, further out in November, December, it is more valuable to be seen than rented. I'll say that again. To November, December, we're doing this in August. In November, December, this is several months down the road. It is more valuable to you, the owner, you, the Airbnb owner, you, the Airbnb person renting out your place. More valuable for you to be seen than rented that far out. Now, as you get closer, and as I get closer, I work with Price Labs. They do great. I would use them. I get no kickbacks if you put my name in the thing. If you put my name in the thing to say who sent you, they'd say who. But we use them. They do great. It's like $20 a month. But they will automatically change the numbers as it gets closer. They'll drop the prices for you as it gets closer. Okay, so as it gets closer, the prices will drop. Then within the Airbnb app or the Airbnb calendar, you can set up percentages if people do 3 days. So what we'll do is we'll overshoot a price by, let's say, for argument's sake, 25%. Like, let's say it's supposed to be $100 a night. We'll overshoot about 25%. We'll do $125 a night. Okay. And then what we'll do in the Airbnb calendar is if you do 3 nights, we'll give you like 25% off. Bring it back to where where it should be. That way we're almost like asking people to do longer stays. We're willing to sell it, do it for price if you do longer stays, things like that. That's as it gets closer. Again, further out, it's going to be more expensive. You're not going to get as good of a hit. But we are tweaking at all times to try, it's more expensive far out. And then as it gets closer, we drop price. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get people to rent within that 2 to 4 week window. That's kind of the sweet spot. If you can get them to rent in there, your prices are about right. And then you can really drop prices to fill in some of the gaps. Okay. For us, our location, we're always running on the weekend. So somebody will always be there on the weekend. I mean, even if it's like if on Friday, if I'm driving home at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock from the office and it's still not rented, I know 100% chance by 7 o'clock that night we'll have somebody in there for the weekend. It just happens. I can't think of the last time we had a weekend open. Okay, that's the way that's the pattern that we have. And then during the week, it's either traveling nurses or whatever, because there's some hospitals up there, or there's traveling workers, things like that, because there's plenty of places to work vineyard wise and whatever up there. There's construction going on up there, so we rent to all kinds of people during the week and during the weekend. And usually that 2 to 4 week out window is when they start really kind of picking it up. And then we try and fill in the blanks as much as we can. But the important thing is, and to do do justice on how would I do pricing. I mean, that's a much longer video and you don't want to sit through that right now. You've already sat through too much. But what I would do is I would learn, again, Airbnb Automated, Sean Rockagic's channel, and I've done webinars with him, paid to sit in on his thinking and his webinars and stuff. And since doing that, it completely changed the game. So you have to know that dynamic pricing, you have to know that, because at the end of the day, and this is the most important thing I'll leave you with, if you're getting this as an investment and you need for people to kind of pay your bills, which we do, there's nothing more important than trying to figure out how can I get people to pay the bills. Nothing. House is great, location's great. You got to find the right spot. You got to get the right people in place. You got to all that stuff. At the end of the day, there's like a number one thing you have to focus on. Number one thing you have to focus on is getting money into your account. Okay. The best way to do that is to be really good at knowing dynamic pricing, knowing how to adjust, knowing what the best way to get your Airbnb cred up and keep the prices up far out, drop as it goes, fill the place up, things like that. Okay, so don't forget about that. To me, it's number 4 because this is more of a chronological thing, but that is as important, if not more important than the other ones. So there you go. Number 4, dynamic pricing. All right, so there's the big 4. I mean, there's some other stuff that we could talk about as far as how the Airbnb went. It's funny because I mean we've had some really funny moments. I mean we've had I had a truck hit one of the wires and pull a wire off the house the one time. That was kind of entertaining. It's like, all right, the people beating up my house. We had the pipe break. We've had people acting a fool on our webcams. In the middle of the night being drunk and yelling at us and whatever through the webcams. We've had all kinds of fun. It is what it is. It's been a fun experience. Would I do it again? Yes. Would my wife do it again? Probably not. But I'm a little more riskier in taking risks than she is. So it is what it is. Where are we right now? To be 100% honest, for the first year, we didn't do as well. I mean, we were running on the order, I'd say like $300 behind every month. Which is fine. I mean, we were able to pay it. I mean, at the end of the day, when you look at how much the house went up in value, because we bought the house like in the 270s, and the house now is like worth about 290, so it's gone up about 6% in value in the year. So it's gone up about $18,000 in value, let's say. I mean, you looked at over the year, that's like $1,500 a month. I mean, so even if we're down $300 a month on the bills we had to pay, house went up $1,500 in value. So it is what it is. The last couple months have been better, even though it's summertime and it's not quite the peak season, because we've learned all those 4 things. Because we've learned how to do the dynamic pricing, how to tweak things, how to keep things moving, all that stuff. Because we've learned that, now this August looks a lot better than last August looked. Last August was our first month in. We hung in there. We did okay. But when I look, this is our first time to compare year to year. How do we look? The other thing is there's a lot of stuff that's going on nationally. The economy is kind of weird. On one hand, the economy continues to go. That's on one hand. On the other hand, people are starting to slow down on their spending a little bit. So there's that you have to worry about. You have to worry about Airbnbs being oversaturated. I mean, where we are, I think we're saturated. I don't think we're oversaturated. Oversaturated is Pigeon Forge. My wife and I were going to run away for the weekend in a couple weeks, and we're looking up in Pigeon Forge, and there are some amazing places up there, and they are cheap as heck. I'm not going to say, cheap as heck. There you go. Because there's too much crap up there on Airbnb. So that's part of what you got to do when you do the when you do the research is you want a place that's going to sell, or a place that's going to rent rather, but you don't want too many people there, because you do want to be able to compete and make money. Okay, where we are right now is in a good spot, and where you are in the Airbnb community right now is a good spot, because I think a couple of years ago people were starting to get in on the Airbnb boom. I'll be honest, we're probably a year late. People are now slowed on that. The Airbnb boom is not happening. They call it Airbnb bust in the Airbnb world. It's Airbnb bust. So the people are not jumping in as much. It's not as saturated or saturating as it was. There are some people that are leaving the space. All that stuff. Okay, so that's something you have to keep an eye on. If you're gonna rent, you got to rent in the right spot. I mean, like if you had a place in Destin, I mean, everybody goes to Destin. Everything is going to rent in Destin. It's not a big deal. Up in the mountains, you have 5 billion cabins around Pigeon Forge. You're not going to rent 5 billion cabins in Pigeon Forge. You'll rent them all down in Destin, but you won't do it in Pigeon Forge. You just got to know where you're going. But I mean, that's basically it. I mean, we're a year in. Yeah, it's been bumpy, but we're still standing, and I think we're in a much, much, much better spot now than we were a year ago. In a year, I think we're going to be in an even better spot, because I think we're going to have a whole year to compound on top of what we did. Okay, because I think this August is already setting up to be a better August than last August. If we can do each of the 6 months, if 4 of the 6 months are better than the year before, then we're growing. We're doing better. We're getting there. Okay, and that's all you can do. 1 year in. If you ever have questions, I love this stuff. Because we have one, we got our skin in the game. We said instead of trying to figure it out and trying to should we, just bam, buy it and we'll build the airplane in the air. And so here we go. If you have questions, let me know. Emails below. Call me 470-233-4409. And that's it. 1 year in Airbnb. We're still standing. We're still rocking. This is Steve. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Could use your help. We'll talk to you. Bye.